Hello everyone, Salt here. Welcome to the video. Today we are going to be going over the Prisma Angstrum and its Incarnon form. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors. That would be things like Warframe abilities that boost weapon performance, pets putting statuses on enemies, anything like that. We just test the weapon by itself, and I leave it up to the viewer to make their own intelligent conclusions about those external things. Like, hey, Salt put viral on the weapon, but I'm going to be using Nourish, so maybe I'll use a different element. Things like that. So let's get into the Prisma Angstrum. It's a secondary rocket cluster launcher. Shoots like a bunch of little rockets all at once. And that's its non-Incarnon form. Its Incarnon form, it turns into a little submachine gun. And that submachine gun has some pretty unique and quirky effects to it. And we'll get into that. So let's get into the build here. Okay, so the Incarnon form. Once you get enough headshots, and the Prisma Angstrum is similar to the Torrid, and I believe it's just because it's an AoE weapon, where you don't really need to get a headshot. You just need to hit the target, and I think because it just has an AoE, it counts as a headshot, and so it fills it up anyway. So it's very easy to fill up the Prisma Angstrum. Just shoot a rocket salvo at an enemy or a group of enemies, and it'll fill it up. But once you fill it up and you switch to Incarnon form, it's going to turn into a submachine gun that shoots out these little balls. I think they're technically like fireballs they're supposed to be. And those little fireballs, when they hit a target, well, first, actually, those fireballs are going to have a little tiny bit of a homing effect. I found this homing effect to be very inconsistent. Sometimes it felt like it did not home whatsoever, and sometimes it felt like it did. But it was very minor anyway, so you are going to want to actually aim the weapon. So that's first. But when it hits a target, it's also going to fire another shot from that target, and that shot will aim at an enemy within 20 meters and try to hit that target. That second effect, that like ricochet shot, is not going to have a homing effect. But the weapon, the projectile speed is pretty quick enough where it's usually going to hit the target. The bullets will also ricochet off the ground. Hits on the ground will not. They'll ricochet on the ground and bounce around, and if they end up hitting an enemy, they'll have that other ricochet effect. But if it hits the ground, the bullet, it's not going to automatically ricochet to an enemy. It has to hit an enemy naturally to have that other ricochet effect where it specifically targets an enemy. A little bit hard to explain, but when we get into the gameplay, it'll be easier to see. So that is how the Prisma Angstrum works. I'm trying to think if there's any other unique things about it. So the non-Incarnate form has Blast, and the Incarnate form is going to have Heat. I think that's pretty much it for the unique stuff. So we'll get into the mods now. We're going to go with Galvanized Diffusion for multi-shot, Galvanized Crosshairs for crit chance. With Galvanized Crosshairs, you're going to be at red crits. You're going to be not in full red crits, only a little bit of the red crits. You're going to be mostly oranges, but you will be at red crits with Galvanized Crosshairs at least, even just a little bit. Galvanized Shot we're using for status chance and direct damage per status type affecting the target. Now, another mod that competes with Galvanized Shot slot is Hornet Strike. And on like a slower firing weapon, I might choose Hornet Strike over Galvanized Shot, but this weapon, specifically its Incarnon form, is very fast firing. And so, yes, it only has 2 elements, and so you're only going to be getting a 240% increase. This is 220%, but this is all the time. This needs to have the elements applied first, and then follow-up shots, they have the damage applied basically. So on slower weapons, sometimes I pick Hornet Strike. But this weapon's Incarnate form is so fast firing that you can pretty much bank on these 2 elements like being on your target in less than a second, probably within your first 1 or 2 shots. So this is effectively Hornet Strike with an 80% status chance. Now I was a little bit confused on Galvanized Shot. because every time I go to test a weapon, I do a lot of research on whether condition overload mods like Galvanized Shot are additive or multiplicative. And I could not find anywhere where it was multiplicative. There was nothing on the bug report page that usually says, this is multiplicative where it should be additive, and that, that's how you would know it's multiplicative, but it's not there on this weapon. And on the actual condition overload mechanic wiki page, all it states is that, and keep in mind the condition overload mechanic wiki page, the secondaries aren't completed. At least in the page I'm looking at. Maybe if you have a page that is completed, that'd be better information for me. But in the secondary page that was not completed, all it says is that the rocket's direct attack works. It doesn't say it's multiplicative or additive. I'm going to guess it means additive. So out of everything I saw, it looks additive, and I would have just left it at that. But there were a few comments on forums that were saying Galvanized Shot is multiplicative with this weapon. But it was just random people leaving random comments saying it was multiplicative. So I can't really take that as definitive information that this is multiplicative. And in my testing, one of the easy ways to tell if Galvanized Shot was multiplicative or additive would be to switch Flare to Encumber, because Encumber would produce a ridiculous amount of elements. And if this was multiplicative, it would do a ridiculous amount of damage. But with Encumber, it did not do a ridiculous amount of damage. It did almost the same amount of damage as Flare, but Flare was more consistent. And for that reason, I believe Galvanized Shot is additive. But if you have any other information, please let me know in the comments. But on testing, it did not appear multiplicative at all. Lethal Torrent, we're going to go from Fire Rate and Multi-Shot. Prime Pistol Gambit for crit chance. Prime Target Cracker for crit damage. This is going to be our simple crit chance, crit damage mods there. Now there's another crit chance mod, critical Creeping Bullseye here. This is the 200 crit chance mod. It's a little bit higher than Prime Pistol Gambit. The reason we're not using it is because we're already in red crits. We are barely in red crits. Like, when I'm at 5 stacks of Galvanized Crosshairs, you'll see that like maybe 10, maybe 20% of my shots are red. And so by adding just another 13% crit chance, that 10 or 20% red crits is going to be like 15 to 25% red crits. Like, it's not going to be that much different, but you are going to get the negative fire rate. So if this weapon without Prime Pistol Gambit was like in the territory of not being at red crits whatsoever, and like Creeping Bullseye pulled it into red crits, I would use it. But it's not. It's already into red crits. It's barely into red crits, which means that adding like a small critical chance increase is not really going to be that effective. So that's why I'm picking Prime Pistol Gambit over that one. And then for our elements, we're just going to go with Viral. So it's going to be the 60-60 Toxin and the 60-60 Cold to make Viral. Now, just remember that in Whispers content, Viral is very bad. There are a lot of enemies that are resistant to Viral. Well, actually, I think all the enemies are resistant to Viral in Whispers. And there are some enemies that are just straight up immune to the Viral proc itself. So you don't want to use Viral for Whispers content. In Whispers, the best general element is going to be Corrosive. So you would just go with, you would keep your little Toxin on there, and you would pop off Frostbite, and you'd put your little Jolt on, and that would switch this to Corrosive Fire, which is also a really good element for general gameplay too. I just prefer Viral for general gameplay myself. So I'm going to put my little Cold back on, Frostbite. Okay. Now for the Exile slot, I'm going to be going for Steady Hands. This weapon in the Incarnon form has really bad recoil. Like, maybe I'm sensitive or something, but like some weapons, their recoil like almost makes me sick to use, and this is one of them. So I really need that Steady Hands mod on this weapon for me not to feel sick using this weapon. The other option is Lethal Momentum for projectile speed, because those little fireballs, the little like shots that come out, and obviously the non-Incarnon Rocket Salvo has, it's not hit scan, it's projectile. So projectile speed is going to help. But the Incarnon form shots are already kind of quick enough, and when we get to the evolutions, you'll see there's another chance for us to pick up projectile speed. So that's why I'm going to pass up on this projectile speed, and I'm going to pick it up when we get to the evolutions. So we're going to go to steady hands here for the weapon recoil. And then in the arcane slot, we're going to be going for Cascadia Flare. Did a bunch of testing. I tested the flare, not flare. Well, I did test flare actually, but I tested Merciless and Deadhead. They were good. I actually had Deadhead on here for a long time, and then I was like, why am I not using Flare? I mean, it produces fire procs. It shoots really quickly. So I switched to Flare, which is just basically a straight up upgrade to Deadhead. The only thing that Deadhead would give you, it would give you the negative weapon recoil, and so you might be able to use lethal momentum in that slot if you went with Deadhead. But you're going to be missing out on flat damage with Deadhead, and you also have a chance to pick up projectile speed in the evolution, so you don't really need to do that. You can go to Cascadia Flare for a little bit more flat damage. And then the big test I had was with Secondary Encumber. Secondary Encumber, it doesn't actually give you a flat damage increase. All it does is when you hit a target, it applies a random status effect. And that combo is with Galvanized Shot. So Galvanized Shot gives you more direct damage per unique status type affecting the target. And on multiplicative weapons, Secondary Cucumber is really good, especially on fast firing. So fast firing, multiplicative weapons, Secondary Cucumber is amazing. But you know, basically when I found how I did my testing to find out if this was multiplicative or not, I was using that Secondary Encumber, and I found out pretty quickly it wasn't, because it should have completely blew Cascadia Flare out of the water if it was multiplicative, and it did not. In fact, Cascadia Flare was more consistent than Secondary Encumber was. So, and because of that, we're going to go with Cascadia Flare. So that is all the mods here. We're going to go over the evolutions real quick. So first evolution obviously is nothing. It's just that you've unlocked it. Congratulations. And then the second one here, this is unfortunately a weapon, like we've discussed in the past, that is really only good for certain Warframes. It's an amazing weapon. This is an amazing weapon with an amazing Incarnon. But you'll see here why I'm saying what I am. Haven Foray. I'm sorry, I keep like snorting here. I think I'm getting a little bit sick. So Haven Foray increases damage by plus 50. That's base damage. That's amazing because that's what everything scales off of. And with Overshields, you get another plus 50 base damage increase, which is even more amazing. So that is extremely powerful. But you need to have Overshields. You have to maintain Overshields too. You can't just have Overshields for a second and then they, get shot off you. You have to be on a Warframe that maintains Overshields. So not every Warframe is going to be able to use this. Well, let's look at the other one. Increases base damage by plus 75. That's really good too. The other one was plus 100 altogether. So this one's plus 75. So it's a little bit less, but you get this other effect where you get increased damage, critical damage multiplier by plus 0.5. That's really good. They're both really good, actually. Plus 100% flat damage, and this one is plus 75 and a 0.5 times crit damage multiplier. But with this one, you need to have an energy max over 700. Now, there are some Warframes, maybe, that would have over a 700 energy pool, but I mean, even out of the Warframes I have built, I don't think that I have one that has a over 700 energy pool. So you would really be stretching to build your Warframe just to use this Paladin Virtue evolution here. So, I'm thinking of like the Warframes that I have that have large energy pools, and that would be things like Harrow, and I don't think my Harrow is even over 700. I think he's at like 550, maybe 600. Ash, I think my Ash has a pretty big energy pool, but again, I don't think it's 700. I think it's like 550-ish. So you'd really be stretching yourself just to make this work here, Paladin Virtue. Maybe there is a Warframe that I just personally haven't built out that does naturally, like with a regular build, have 700 or over, but I have not encountered that yet in the Warframes that I have built out. So for me, I think Haven Foray is going to be the easiest thing to achieve on certain Warframes, because there are just going to be Warframes out there that just naturally have Overshields, easily without stretching your build. That would be things like, Hildren, Shield Protea, Shield Harrow, things like that. I'm going to cough real quick. I'm sorry. Oh, I hope I'm not getting sick. So unfortunately, the Prisma Angstrum is very strong, but it really can't be used on every single Warframe because of those two conditionals here. Now, out of those two conditionals, they're both amazing. So you pick whatever you can get. If your Warframe has overshields, pick this one. If your Warframe has over 700 energy, pick this one. They're both friggin' amazing. It'd be hard for me to really pick one over the other. I'm going to be picking Haven Foray because on my builds, on my Warframe builds, it's easier for me to use this on a few of my Warframes that just naturally have overshield than for me to stretch a build to make it have over 700 energy. Okay, let's go to the third evolution here. We have some quality of life stuff here. We'll go to the one that I'm not using at all here. So this is Hitman's Horde. Increases ammo capacity to +9. This does not affect the Incarnon mode, so this is completely doo-doo. Do not use Hitman's Horde. The next two are both pretty good. So I'm going to be using Swift Deliverance. This is going to give me that +30 projectile speed. Remember when I said we would have a chance to pick up projectile speed in the evolution? Well, here it is, Swift Deliverance. And then the other one that's pretty decent is Rapid Reinforcement, +50% reload speed. Now, this affects the reload speed of the non-Incarnon because, of course, the Incarnon doesn't reload. So this is not necessarily like affecting the Incarnon as far as reload speed, but reload speed affects how quickly you switch into Incarnon. So you would get a quicker switch into Incarnon with Rapid Reinforcement. So both of these are super good. I think if you did choose a way to get projectile speed in the build that we went over before, maybe you pick Rapid Reinforcement instead. But if you didn't, like I didn't pick a way to get projectile speed. I'm going to pick up my projectile speed right here in this evolution. But these are both really good. And then finally, in the last evolution here, we have one that's like pretty just bad. So Survivor's Edge is just not really that good. It just gives you a little bit of crit, a little bit of status, not really enough of either. We're going to go with the one that I picked, which is more critical chance, so +10%. And you get a little bit more crit damage multiplier. So this is more crit focused. And then you have this one here, Fatal Affliction. This would be really good if the weapon was multiplicative, like we were talking about the condition overload stuff. If the weapon was multiplicative, we'd probably pick Fatal Affliction, but because it's not, and because we only actually produce 2 statuses on this weapon, this is not really an option. So we're going to be picking Critical Parallel. That's it for the build. Now, I don't mix these with any kind of external factors, so when we get to the gameplay, I'm just going to be doing this on a Protea. So I usually use an Inaros, but because of that weird conditional with Prisma Angstrum where we have to have Overshield, Protea has a ability to give herself Overshield that does not affect the weapon. So she has the easiest way to do that. You know, Hildren could do Overshield too, but then I'm armor stripping everything, and that would make the weapon look stronger than it actually is. So on Protea, she has no mods that affect weapon damage. I'm only going to be using her, I'm not going to be using her damage grenade fan. I'm going to be using her held. So if you tap it, it shoots out a shrapnel grenade or grenades. And if you hold it, it shoots out shield grenades. And the shield grenades don't actually do damage. You just walk over them and you pick up one of them and it rotates around you and it gives you overshield. So that's the only ability I'm going to be using is that shield grenade fan. And I have a pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon damage. That way we can just see how the Angstrum works. Okay, let us queue up a Steel Path Kuva Survival. I'm going to go on solo. Find Kuva Fortress. There it is. Before we start this, I actually just want to show off like the regular Angstrum. So when you go to shoot it, just kind of like a little rocket salvo. You do have to hold it down though. I don't think. Oh no, you can click it like that. Okay. So if you just tap it, it just shoots out like 3 little rockets, and if you hold it, it shoots out like a bigger salvo. Filling up the Incarnate, I'd probably just hold it and shoot out a bigger salvo. It has more chance to hit more heads and fill it up in just one shot. A lot of times it will just completely fill it up in a single big salvo. So that's kind of what I do. I just shoot a big salvo with a group of enemies, and it usually fills it up in one shot, maybe 2 if I'm unlucky. All right, let me stop shooting at the wall so I don't waste my ammo here. Oh, and you'll see me doing this, which is just the grenade fan, but the one that gives me overshields. So they're just kind of like little grenades that you or your allies can walk over and they get overshields from them. So we'll start it here.
As expected, Grenier have shut down environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules.
Boop. See, one shot, full. I'm going to switch to Incarnon, and then we're going to have this this mode here. So if you notice, as it's hitting something, let me shoot something slow. So this guy, you see how it's bouncing and it's trying to target another enemy? So that's the effect. That's that ricochet effect. You're out of my Incarnon. I'm just going to charge it. Bam, it's full again. Go back to Incarnon. Oh, you know what? Maybe this is a little bit more than 10% reds. It's maybe like, maybe a little bit more than 10%. Although I'm only at 3 stacks of scope. Maybe it would be like 50% reds. It's also going to bounce, like if you hit the ground, it'll bounce, but it won't auto-target an enemy. It'll only auto-target an enemy if it hits another enemy. It'll try to aim at an enemy within 20 meters. Oh, that was my own fault. I was too busy talking. I don't play Protea too much, so I have a bad habit of not resetting my overshields. All right, let me try to focus so I don't embarrass myself too much in this video. I'll try to just cast my overshields every like 20 seconds or so whether I need them or not, just so I make sure I have them up all the time. So even though this weapon doesn't have punch through, it kind of makes up for it just by being able to like ricochet and hit other targets. So it's not like, yes, it's a single target weapon, but it doesn't really feel like a single target weapon because a lot of times you are hitting multiple targets with each shot. See how I'm barely aiming. I'm just basically shooting at the ground around a group of dudes, and it's filling up the Incarnon in like one shot. So this is a very easy, probably even easier than the Torrid to fill up your Incarnon. Against the Acolyte, I did not test this against the Acolyte, so I guess we'll both see together how this does. I think it's going to do pretty good. I don't think it's going to be an amazing Acolyte killer, but I think it'll do pretty good. All right, I'm going to Incarnon. Oh my goodness. All right, this is an amazing Acolyte killer. I take my words back. I did not think it was going to kill him that quickly. Oh my goodness. All right, very pleasantly surprised at that one. The rockets, of course, can cause self-stagger, so you see me staggering myself sometimes when I'm shooting those rockets. That's just my inexperience with the Angstrum, really. I don't use the Angstrum too much, other than sometimes. I have a few shield adaptation frames, but unfortunately none of them really use the Angstrum. I probably should, actually. This is a really good weapon. I play Hildren a lot. I don't play Shield Protea. I don't really like Shield Protea. I think when the Protea Prime comes out, I might switch her from Shield Adaptation Protea to either Rolling Guard or Health and Armor. But I play Shield Harrow, so Shield Hildren, well, Hildren's always shields, really. Shield Hildren or Shield Harrow would be really good with this. Probably should use this on Harrow. This would be really good on Harrow. Right now, I use the Ambassador on Harrow, which is kind of a weird pick, but I really like it on Harrow. But this one might be better than the Ambassador. Well, actually, it probably is better. Probably is much better than the Ambassador. Yep, almost forgot to do my overshields there again. If you've used the dual Toxicist Incarnon, this feels very much like the dual Toxicist, maybe a little bit more consistent because the dual Toxicist, they kind of like jumps in and out of being quicker and slower if you're like being lazy about getting headshots. So maybe like a little bit more of a consistent dual Toxicist. I think the dual Toxicist is a bit stronger in the actual like, you know, kill per second department, but I feel like this is a little bit more consistent, maybe. The dual Toxicist is one that secondary Encumber works well on, so it's a good option for that weapon. I think my build with the Toxicist, I didn't go with Encumber, but in retrospect, it's probably the better pick on Toxicist. I don't know what I went with. I think I might have went with Flare. I mean, they're both amazing, but I think because dual Toxicist is multiplicative and it's a fast-firing weapon, I think secondary Encumber probably is a better pick. All right, second Acolyte. He got killed real quickly. Like, it would be good on this weapon, too, if it was multiplicative, which I, again, believe pretty surely, not 100% though, that it's additive. It's not multiplicative, so that's why we don't go with it on this. We haven't had to hit a life support at all, which means that shows that this weapon kills very fast. It can farm trash very efficiently, and it also means it can farm big guys very efficiently too. Because if we were slowing down on big guys, like if you've watched the Panthera videos that I did for the past few days, taking a longer time to kill big guys affects your little guy killing potential. So, like, even though the Panthera was really good at killing little guys, it suffered because I had to spend forever fighting, like, Acolytes. I mean, it was okay against Xmas and Traxes. It was pretty good. But Acolytes, specifically, was really bad on. This is really good at everything. I like weapons that are good at everything. You don't have to... oops. I'm in my charge fire. I got a little bit of lucky there. It's my third shot. There we go. Now it's full. Have to remember to keep my overshields up so I can show this weapon at its full potential. I keep forgetting. On a weapon like Harrow or Hildren, you usually just spam pillage, like on a pretty constant basis, so you don't even have to really worry about like forgetting to do it, just because you have like the muscle memory of pressing pillage every friggin' 5 seconds with them. So we're at 10 minutes here. 826 kills, which is absolutely amazing. That's like, you know, close to what the top tier weapons in the game, like the Torrid, are doing. So this is a extremely powerful weapon. One of the best Incarnons in the game. I don't know that it's top 3, but it's probably easily like top 10. The top 3, I would say, are probably Torrid, Burston, and Boar. Those are really good. Lex Incarnon is super good. That probably like is up there. Man, there's so many good Incarnates. This is a really good one too. Like I think the Toxicist is a little bit better than this one, but this one is still really good. It's still like right under the Toxicist probably. I would say this is like top 10. Top 10. So we're going to do a Lua Conjunction real quick. 10 minutes there. We'll kill some trash, kill some acolytes. Lua Conjunction is going to force us to fight larger, fatter enemies. They're going to start at 180 to 200. And it's going to force us to fight those Thraxes too, which are bigger guys. Kind of like Super Eximuses.
Your enemies have grown fierce. Use all that you have learned.
I'll start off here. Cast my little shield grenades or whatever these things are called.
Stand by for life support.
And we're going to try to move in the direction of life support. That way we can get the enemies to come to us. Now on Lua Conjunction, you are kind of expecting to get a little bit less kills than you did on Kuva Survival. Just because Kuva Survival is easier to line enemies up in hallways and just kind of blast out down the hallway. And also, you spend more time fighting bigger guys on Lua.
This would be an excellent place to deploy.
Try to get headshots when you can. I'm being a little bit lazy about getting headshots. You see me dipping back down into yellow sometimes. That means I don't really have any scope stacks on. But, you know, as long as you're like pretty not lazy about getting headshots, you should be in reds most of the time. I'm going to see if I can go through this without hitting a life support as well. That'd be really nice. Because usually in Lua Conjunction, you're chasing life supports. So I've been thinking about doing a Necros build video. And after I do the Necros build video, I've been thinking about maybe making like a series on where to farm resources. Like for kind of like 2024, because a lot of the stuff is outdated. A lot of the outdated stuff is correct. It's just sometimes hard to find. Like it's stuck in like 6-year-old forums and things. So I've just kind of been thinking about doing like a resource farm video after I do my Necros. Because Necros, of course, you know, is like the resource farming frame. So I would be like, you know, how to farm nanospores and, take Necros into this mission and see how many nanospores I get in like a 10-minute period or something. Maybe 3 times, like do it like 3 times, then average out of those 3 missions. And then do it for every resource type. That way it's all consistent. Kind of like how I do this, it's all consistent. Well, for the most part. Gameplay is not always going to be exactly the same. But, that way it's all like somewhat consistent. Every resource type, I'm going in with Necros. I'm doing it for 10 minutes. And then I do it like 3 times, and I average those 3 times together. Maybe not in a single video, because 10 minutes 3 times, it's 30 minutes of me sitting around farming resources. Be pretty boring. But maybe I can compile the data beforehand and then just have a video just kind of showcasing like 1 10-minute run and how much I get. So if you're interested in that, when this goes on YouTube, just let me know in the comments. I think it'd be pretty cool. I've been playing this game for a long time, and I still use those resources. I've just noticed they're very old, a lot of them. Now we have Malice. He's the most dangerous guy. He's going to put a mag bubble on me. I think it's on me. I'm going to roll. Yep. Okay. I'm safe. I am safe. We'll just blast away at him here. Got Thraxes. They're the big dudes. He went down super quick. I'm going to try to get that guy down. Yep. Alright, both Thraxes are down. Let's try to stabilize our life support without having to hit life supports. That'll be really nice. Oh, the last 2 Panthera videos, I was like running life support to life support. It was painful. It's nice to use a stronger weapon this time. I'm at 35. I might have to hit 1 life support. That's okay, though. I'll hit 2, just top myself off. I'm going to be at 70 by the time I hit this, so it'll go up to 100. 99, that's perfect. Keep your overshields up, Salt. What are you doing? At 7 minutes, 3 more minutes left. So a problem that a lot of secondary weapons have is they don't have a good mod to give punch through. And so single target weapons, they usually are kind of like lackluster because of it. And this is a single target weapon, but it doesn't feel that way because it almost feels like an AoE weapon because every time you're hitting something, it's ricocheting and hitting other things. So you don't have that issue on this weapon that you do on a lot of single target secondaries. Those ricochets really help it to do some extra AoE damage. Not technically AoE. You know, that weapon technically does not have an AoE, except for the non-incarnate mode, of course. But so, become a weapon stolen, as is tradition. Kill a few of these guys and turn around and kill a Rackmaster who stole my weapon. There he is. Eight minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah, I've played Necros for a very long time. That's been my main in this game, and it'll probably stay on my profile as my most played Warframe like forever. Just because I have 2,000 hours at least only on Necros, probably more than that. And so like I've been playing Rhino for the past year, and he's not even close to that. He's at like 7%, where Necros is still at like 50, 60-ish percent. So I think doing a Necros build would be really nice. I've learned a lot over the years playing Necros, being a Necros main. I've had a lot of weird builds on Necros, trying out all kinds of weird crap. I don't even know how many forms I have on that stupid frame. I think like 12 or 13. From switching builds over and over and trying different things. And I finally settled recently on a build that I really enjoy for Necros. He's unfortunately, though, going to have two builds. He's going to have the Endurance build, which I don't think is the good way to play Necros. And then he's going to have the Farming build, which can still be used on Endurance. It just can't be used on a friggin' 9-hour Stay in Steel Path Endurance. It's more of like a 1 or a 2 hour, probably more like a 1 hour Endurance.
The void has summoned a new presence and it craves our life support.
But, I mean, my thing would be like, why are you staying? If you're going to do a level cap, are you doing it on a loot frame Necros? Oh my goodness, I got my operator killed. It's one dead. He's back in his mortal form, or whatever you want to call it. His non-void form. There we go, we got him. Alright, so we're at 10 minutes. We're at 784 kills. That is only slightly less than Cougar Survival. You do expect to get a little bit less in Lua Conjunction, maybe like 50 or 100 kills less, and I think that's even less than 100 kills less. So it did really, really good. This is a powerful weapon. Powerful, powerful weapon. It just has that one drawback where it kind of forces you in a playstyle. You have to use this with an overshield frame, or you have to use it with a frame that manages to have over 700 energy. Which I think normally is, like, I don't know. I haven't built out every frame in the game. Maybe you guys are playing a frame that does just naturally, on his regular build, have over 700 energy. But even on my builds that are energy hungry, I don't have a frame that has over 700. So you would really be stretching to get over 700. You'd be using Archon shards and putting mods on to purposely try to get over 700. So that might be a little bit more of a stretch. I think the overshield one is a little bit easier of a conditional. Of course, if you play overshield frames. Not everyone does. So, all right. Well, that's the Prisma Angstrum. It is amazing. Probably, I would say probably top 10. I really should do a tier list eventually. But I would guess Prisma Angstrum is in the top 10. Not top 3, probably not top 5, but I think top 10 easily. So, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked it, consider giving it a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing or tell me what I could do to earn your sub. And I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. Bye.